there's one thing that kind of opened my eyes about is it's because the democratic ideals are the ones that are paving the way for the Antichrist, more so. You gotta understand that. More than Republican ideals, Democrat ideals are the ones that pave the way more for the Antichrist. For Republicans, there are a few things that I can see that would pave the way for the Antichrist. One of them would be concerning about their capitalism estate. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for capitalism too, if I'm going to compare that with socialism and other stuff. But in a capitalistic world, that's where the elites get more and more of their power, you gotta understand. So they privatize a lot of things, monopolize a lot of things, and that's where they gain more power and they can run the government, so to speak. A second thing concerning Republicans I can see is that, now this is really surprising to you. You know what? I didn't draw all this. I might as well say this before I get on the Democrats. So for Republicans, this might be shocking to you, but I think this is important to know because Satan wants us to be ignorant, so to speak. All right, so this is one of the most politically incorrect sermons I'm going to preach. Okay. All right, so all right, okay, I got to erase this now. I got to start a new subject. So with capitalism right here, the problem with this is that where the elites start to take over and they monopolize things. So I mentioned that. That's why you will see Catholics and Jews involved with this. Another thing, this might be surprising to you, is abortion. Now you might say, aren't you voting like the Republicans do for abortion? Well, I'm kind of hesitant. Don't get me wrong, I'm against abortion, and that if I have to, I would vote. But here's the thing. What Satan's doing is, do you know which party you have to team up with to conquer abortion? It's the Catholic Church. They're really big on this. So that's why Christians can, neo-evangelical pastors who are against abortion, that's why they tend to hold hands more often with Catholic priests. That's why I kind of don't like this kind of issue. If I go by the Bible-believing mentality concerning this issue, then actually I would probably not get involved in that actually, and not take it as a major thing. But if you get more and more involved, I understand the conspiracy theory mindset. I understand this. This is murder. I don't approve of it either. But you got to realize this. If you tend to go that kind of route, then you're going to think that's as important as the gospel, and then you get involved with these guys. But Bible believers right here, we don't tend to get really involved in this one. That's right. Especially, you know, what certain verses concerning about this topic, which I'm not going to get into right now. But now another thing right here. So we see capitalism, we see abortion. And then the third thing right here is concerning, it just left me. It was so important right here. Okay, I guess I'll get back to that maybe later on. But I think the other one concerning about the Republican Party, so these are two things what the devil could use, but it's also concerning Israel. Now, do I support the nation of Israel? Absolutely I do, all right? I would be pro-Israel all the way. But you got to realize this, is that there are certain Zionists and elites who are involved in this as well. So when we support Israel, there's going to be Jewish elites that we will be supporting inevitably. Sorry, that's just reality. So that's what's going to happen right here. So then the Masonic Jewish elites can take over the world more and more and more. But the more you become more Republican, the more you will see this church involved. That's what you're going to see. And Catholicism has to be number one in religion. All right. But I believe, like I mentioned to you before, that it's more of the Democrats. That's the reason why it's understandable when you study conspiracy and end times why we get on these guys the most. You might say, why are we getting on these guys the most, Pastor? The reason why we're getting on these guys the most is because their ideals are the one that paved the way more so for the Antichrist. You might say, well, then there's no party that I can be in where I will not support the Antichrist. Can I answer your question? Yes, you're right. Amen. Doesn't matter who you vote for. Yep. I know that the Lord has used Trump in a lot of good ways, and I do believe he was able to combat a lot of the elite system. But you got to realize this, it's only a small portion of what the higher elites allow. You got to realize the highest elite is Satan, and he's the god of this world. And he'll give you a limitation on what you can take away from him. But he'll still ultimately be the god of this world. See? So let me explain some of the portions right here concerning Democrat ideals, why it would support it. Liberalism. Why? Well, we don't like this capitalistic idea right here. So then, now, they're not saying it, but some of them are now saying it, actually. It's socialism. They don't want to say communist now because they want to be against North Korea. But if you're going to be honest, it's turning into communism pretty much. Socialists, they're using this word few times because they don't want to use this word often. If they use this word, then they look evil. Then they'll look like tenfold Bernie Sanders or something like that. That's why Bernie Sanders could not quite get the vote, because it's too extreme. But it's getting there. And you know who he's getting the votes from? Younger people. A lot of younger people like Bernie Sanders. Why? Because it is hitting there. Oh, it's just slippery slope argument. And that's a logical fallacy. Logical fallacy, if you look at current events, if you look at Bernie Sanders' votes, look at who these young people love. Come on, use your head. Use your head. Why is this more supporting of the Antichrist? Here's something. And I'm going to include this one too, the ecumenical movement. Oh, yeah. Okay, what is this supporting? What do you mean, Pastor? Look at Revelation chapter 3. The Bible says the last church is Laodicea. What is Laodicea? Rights of the people. That's right. That's why we're against this. Look at Revelation chapter 3. We'll look at verse 14. And unto the angel of the church of the Laodiceans write, these things saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God. So he is speaking to the Laodiceans. Now, Laodicean means rights of the people, right? Now, picture your typical liberal and see if this pictures them in churches. Let's keep reading. Verse 15, I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. See, we're not saying liberals are like really evil people. They're not like cold. But neither are they hot. They're not all the way for Jesus Christ. Yep. You know what liberals are? They're like these in-betweeners. Nice people, but they're not on fire for God. Yep. Keep reading. So then, because thou art what? Lukewarm. That's your typical liberal. They're lukewarm people. And neither cold nor hot, I will what? Spew thee out of my mouth. God's going to vomit them. Liberals are not cold-hearted people. They're not cold-hearted people. They like to help out people. But they're not hot either. Verse 17, because thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods and have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. And if you said that to them, a typical liberal will scream right in front of your face, thinking that he is independent. He has that kind of power and that freedom enough that he is fine. He is fine. I'm sick and tired of hearing this world. I'm fine. I'm fine. You got your religion. I got mine. I'm fine. You respect what I have. You're not fine. You're blind, miserable, and naked, and you don't like to be exposed that way. That's your problem. Verse 18, and I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thine eyes with thyself, that thou mayest see. Look at that. So we see right here that this totally matches up with the Democrats. They're all for the ecumenical movement. They're all for all religions getting together, getting along. Why? Because rights of the people. They're all about this socialistic kind of economy, even though they dishonestly say we're not a socialistic economy, but they are. You know what that is? Rights of the people. In their mind, this is why they'll never understand a Christian. In their mind, their bias, their foundation is people, people, people. You got to understand that. If you understand that mindset, then you can point out the flaws with their foundation. With whatever they argue, whenever they argue, you got to realize this, it's going to trace back to a mindset of people, people, not God, not the Bible. If you shatter their foundation with God and the Bible rather than people, people, you'll get to them. That's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. That's why they don't understand the role of husband being in charge of the home and the wife being a supporter. They can't understand that role. You know why? Because they're thinking about rights of the what? People, equality. Yeah. That's what they're thinking in their mind. They don't understand the concept of kicking out homosexuality from churches. Why? Equality, respecting rights. See this kind of mindset? Okay, let's also look at the book of, what did I say, guys? Romans 1, right? Romans 1, thank you. Romans 1. Check this out. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to read 2 Thessalonians 2. If you want to turn there, that's fine, but I'm just going to read it. Look at Romans chapter 1. Now look at verse 32. Who, knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. Do you see that? Oh, yeah. All right, so we see Romans 1:32. These people have pleasure in their sin. What sin? The sins of Romans 1. We're going to examine this. All right, you ready for this? We're going to examine this here. We're going to look at the filling verses. But this is a sign of hailing in the Antichrist. You might say, how so? Pleasures in sins of Romans 1. When you look at 2 Thessalonians 2, it is the people who have pleasure in such sins who are the followers of the Antichrist. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8, and then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Verse 10, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. Verse 12, that they all might be damned who believe not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. So we see right here 2 Thessalonians 2, verses 8 through 12. That's evidence that these people are hailing in the Antichrist. Now, are these liberals, these Democrats, are these the ones who are the followers of the Antichrist of 2 Thessalonians 2, 8 through 12? Let's see Romans 1, if they fulfill that role, shall we? They hate Romans 1, man. So let's start off right here. We're going to start off where it begins. It begins right at verse 20. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Okay, so here's something. Verse 20, now I want you to look at your American history, okay? How did it start? They knew God. God bless America, Christian country, blah, blah, blah. Knew God, right? Then they what? They lost gratitude. They were losing it. Do you see that with your children? They have a knowledge of God, then they're losing it. They're not thankful for their Christian heritage. They want to mess around with the world more. They think that Christian principles are too restricting. Look at verse 21 says they became vain in their imagination, foolish heart darkened. Do you see that in your children? Oh, yeah. Daydreaming, being vain in their imagination for something wicked, for the world. They're becoming more foolish in their response towards you. They're not listening to you about God. Verse 22, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. This is tied now to education. So there's a higher education system where they reject God. Why? What kind of higher education would teach you that? Just look at today's schools. Amen. So you get these kids who are kind of seeing discontented in their Christian walk, then they go to public schools. And then they think themselves to be more wise, and then they become fools. Now, do you see this pattern? Look at verse 23. And change the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. Then their higher education is where it involves with God's creation being elevated more than the Creator. That's where you see your democratic ideals right here. How so, Pastor? Because we see another thing right here. We see their joy of higher education in which it corrects Christianity. So where creation is elevated above the Creator, right? What does that include? Evolution. That also includes the environmentalist movement in the liberal movement. Now, do we believe in destroying the environment? Absolutely not. The Bible talks about the righteous man careth for the life of his beast. So we believe in that. But you got to realize this liberal world, you know what it's doing? If you're going to be very, very honest, they will prioritize more on their dog and their cat more than the Word of God. They will put more money into saving a tree more than missions for souls to get saved. And this is where you prioritize more of the creation more than the Creator. And you got to realize that some Christians are getting involved in this too, so you got to be careful of that. If this is affecting your mindset, you may not be a Democrat or liberal, but its ideal may be affecting your life too. Yep. So you got to be careful of that. You got to be very careful of that. This is the mindset of Romans 1, you got to understand, where it's prioritized the creation of the world more than the Creator. That's kind of scary over there. It's kind of scary over there. And that's why they will give the lie of global warming, and then they will give you some sob story of this penguin or this polar bear or something like that dying out, and they don't have a home. Boo-hoo, we all cry, it's the end of the world. And they don't believe in the promise where God said, if He can clothe the lilies of the field and feed the sparrow, how much more can He not clothe you, O ye of little faith? So that's their mindset right here. This is all Democrats right here. But let's keep reading here. Wherefore God also gave, let me turn the page, gave them up to uncleanness through the lusts of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves. You see, look at the liberals and the Democrats flaunting what? Have you ever seen these shows by these stupid young people flaunting their bodies? And then when Trump became president, women unashamedly wearing sexual organs as costumes, showing pride of their body. That's not pride, that's dishonoring your own body. Berkeley students, Santa Cruz students, liberals going out nude and entering in classes, that's dishonoring, that's shameful. That's evil. Mardi Gras parties, and I bet you, look at the majority of those young students who are Mardi Gras. What kind of party you think they'd vote for? See, this is effective for the Antichrist. Let's keep reading. Who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worshiped and served the what? Creature more than the Creator. They serve more of this, see, creation, more than this person right here. They will sooner love a cat more than Jesus Christ. That's right. That's true. Now, can I give you something interesting if you don't believe that they're going to worship animals? Come on. What is the Antichrist's name? The beast. That's right. Beast. That's right. He's the beast. That's right. Let that sink in your head for a while. And if you want to get deeper into that, Dr. Ottman talks about a black cat. Okay, but anyway, aside from that, so the thing right here is that he's called the beast. As a matter of fact, look at Revelation 13. It says they worship the who? The beast. Yep. They worship the creature more than the Creator.
That's a good teaching.
Well, all right. Let's look at verse 26. For this cause God gave them up unto vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burn in their lust one toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly. See that? Now it becomes homosexuality. So now it becomes where it's rights of the people, where they knew God, they're losing it. Higher education, prioritizing creation more than the creator. And then it comes down to what? It comes down to sexuality, right? Talks about, that's why Hollywood glamorizes, television glamorizes skimpier dressing. Worldly music that look, you cannot separate contemporary music from sex. You can't separate those two. That's why we know contemporary music is wrong. It is founded with sex, you gotta understand. Why do you think they play the electric guitar, the drums, and all that? Because it has to do with the sexual atmosphere. You'll never separate that. Look at those celebrities. They can't help themselves but dress sexy when they sing. Why? Come on. Because it's involved in that. Look at them going out nude and then skimpier in their dressing as they go out in the beaches. And now you have nude beaches, not just bikinis. And then this deteriorates now into what? Homosexuality. Because you respect so much of sexuality now. Now, you know Romans 1 is giving you a history lesson. Yeah. And do you see this in your home? Some of you have children that's here and here. And they're getting to here. And pretty soon, once they get to here, then they're going to accept this part here. Then it's going to get here. And that's why you see them dressing even more wrong. And then right here. And then let's see it more. Look at verse 28. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient. Now they're mentally ill. That's why homosexuality is a mental illness. The DSM, blah, blah, blah. I don't care the DSM. Look at Romans 1. You know what DSM is? It's dumb, stupid morons. That's what DSM stands for, man. Dumb, stupid morons. This mental illness aspect, that's why homosexuality is born from mental illness. That's why you have, can I say this? You have mentally ill people in churches today. And when you preach about hell, you get some sobby, whiny, sissified Christian who's mentally ill that says, I didn't like when they said hell. Crying about when some missionary says, I have a strong burden for souls burning in hell, and some wah-wah out there cries out, I didn't like any mention about hell. You a Christian, you fool? Yeah. You're not even a Christian. Get out of here, man. Getting upset by somebody trying to show them the gospel, how to get saved. What are you, man? You're mentally ill. We got mentally ill Christians today, and I better hear an amen on that one. And this is so messed up, our world. It's a mental illness. Yep. But see, they're so mentally ill that they're accusing you of being mentally ill. That's right. You ever seen a mentally ill person thinking you're crazy, that you're the one mentally ill? Then you know they're mentally ill. See this? The most apparent evidence, look at 29 through 31. That's why they go to sins. And that's why they will be here. Pleasure in them that do them. It all comes down to this. Being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful. And 32, pleasure in them that do them. Now, if you see those kind of children at verse 29 through 31, if you see those things within these, do you see those sins within these people? You do, don't you? You know, how did they end up like that, Pastor? Right here. Look at this cycle. Yep. That's where it goes. You notice it's so interesting. Higher education is where it begins a lot of the downhill stuff. That's right. Why? Because you have to educate them out of that. But they would not be fooled by this if they didn't lose their heart for God to begin with. And if you had that, you would not be fooled by. It's not because they're smart enough to brainwash your kids. No, it's because they didn't have the heart to begin with. That's why. Trust me, they have arguments that I can't even answer. But I never lost my heart for God. Amen. And trust me, when I had my heart for God, it gave me the answers to their arguments later on. But see, God's doing this to test your heart. Now, what phase are you in? If you're right here, don't be surprised you're going to see your child voting for some guy who's so weird, and then we'll see this guy become the next president of the United States of America. Okay, I better close it here before they shut me down.